Hello and welcome to the NBA and OKC podcast. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman. With me, our NBA beat writer, Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, it's team name. We're a city on fire. We have a fever, and the only thing that's going to cure it is to find out what the name of the team's going to be.
Yeah, everybody wants to know yesterday.
Well, we want to know yesterday. It's from, if you read today's paper on or go to News OK, read Mike Baldwin's story. What the NBA is saying is this. This is a long process. It usually takes 22 months to come up with a new team name, and they're trying to cram it into a couple weeks, maybe 8 to 10. We want to know now. The NBA says the whole thing will be unfurled sometime in September, but they might give it to us a piece at a time. Let me ask you a question first. What's going to come first, the colors, the name, or the uniform?
I think the team name has to come first. I mean, if you put out the colors first, that's sort of odd. You have black and gold, for example, and no team name. I don't think people, really get excited about colors with no name. The name is what you want. I mean, the colors are important, very important. But the name, you want to get excited about what the name of the team is going to be.
Darnell, you spent yesterday and part of Monday also talking to a lot of marketing experts about this, and specifically an Oklahoma City marketing expert about two questions, really. One, are all the good names gone? I think they are. I think most of the good names are gone, and that's why this is going to be difficult. The second thing I wonder, they said, what goes into what makes a good name? What'd you find out?
A lot of them say that all the good names aren't gone. There are a lot of good names still there. What they're saying is you have to look for something that's regional, something that directly relates to this region, this state more specifically. Animals are always good.
Ferocious animals.
I spoke with Vince Orza. He was the local guy you're talking about, the dean of the Minder School of Business over at Oklahoma City University. He said it has to be short and sweet.
Yeah.
It's got to be powerful. It's got to be something that's easy to remember, easy to spell. You can't misspell it, and it has nothing. It doesn't relate to anything else. So, like Oilers. You don't want your name to be confused with someone else's name. You don't want them to think Houston Oilers when they're really thinking Oklahoma, when you're talking about the Oklahoma City Oilers. So that would not work. Okay.
Now, you're going to have all these names on News OK later this evening and in the Oklahoman tomorrow. But let's give people a little taste of some of you sort of gave them a taste test of these names. You ran them by Vince Orza. So you don't have to tell me exactly what he said, but give us an impression of what he was saying. Okay, so let's take Stallions.
Stallions, he liked Stallions. Stallions is sort of powerful. It's a powerful animal. It's sort of long, and his one of his knocks were on a lot of the names were that they were long. Thunderbirds, long.
Rough Riders,
long. Stallions, sort of long. The thing you have to remember is you have to put these things on jerseys, and they have to fit. And one of the good points Vince Orza made is the shorter the name, the bigger it can be on a jersey, on a hat, on a T-shirt. The things that you have to sell, the more visible your brand is, and that's important.
Okay, well, I might remind Vince Orza and everybody else that the team's previous name was the Supersonics, which is anything but short.
And they were never called the Supersonics.
And they shortened it to Sonics, which made it more powerful. And Supersonics became something that people talked about, and Sonics became what people wrote. So I thought that worked well in both cases, but I'm not from Seattle. Okay, so Stallions too long, Rough Riders too long, but Stallions, he said, has a regional appeal, right?
Yeah,
maybe?
more so Rough Riders, Roughnecks, not Rough Riders, Roughnecks. He thought Rough Riders, Teddy Roosevelt. People would wonder, what the heck are the Rough Riders? But as long as it was short, that was sort of the most important thing.
Give me a couple names that he did like.
Rush, Oklahoma City Rush.
What?
A lot of people aren't wild about, sort of things. Just
that's a bad rock band.
Just
from
sort of
Canada, I think.
Sort of not nouns or anything that's not a noun. He liked nouns. It has to be a person, place, or thing. That's sort of important.
I think that's also like an arena football team in Chicago.
Yeah, but here's the thing to remember. A lot of people. I've heard a lot of people talk about, this because I like energy. I like energy and I like thunder. And
did he like them?
He did. He hated energy. I think he hated energy. Thunder, I don't think he was wild on. But the reason I like him Well, aside from the reason that I like them. But a lot of people are saying that, they remind them of Little League girls soccer league teams or something like that. And I'm like, most of these teams, nobody's complaining about the Miami Heat. Nobody's complaining about the Orlando Magic. Most of these team names are sort of, lame, if you will, before you get used to them. Before they catch on, nobody really likes the name.
I still don't like the Magic.
You have to give it time, I think. I mean, the Utah Jazz, it's catchy. It worked better in New Orleans when they were the New Orleans Jazz. But the Utah Jazz, I mean, that's a team that works now. That's a team name that works. And
really?
I think nobody's complaining. They've been the Jazz for how many years now?
Too long.
So as long as, we give it time to sink in, I think we'll eventually appreciate it.
Okay, so you got some of this stuff from Vince Orzer. That's going to be in the paper tomorrow. We're asking the question, are all the good names gone? The marketing folks kind of say no. Now, you're walking around town, though, and that's all. It seems to me that's all anybody wants to talk about.
Yeah, it's on the morning radio stations. I was working out this morning. It was on the morning radio stations. They're talking all about it.
What's your team name story? You're with your brothers. What's the funniest thing that you've heard so far about team names, whether they be somebody asked you, somebody made a suggestion, or where it came from?
I don't really have any funny stories like that where people made a suggestion, but one of our coworkers, actually a City Hall reporter, walks up to me every day and asks me, Darnell, what's the team name going to be? I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I'd tell you. The moment I know, you'll know. But it's just things like that.
That's how newspapers work.
That's right. Yeah. It's things like that where people always want to know. I mean, every time they see me, people that we work with, they want to know what the team name is. And it's not just, it's people that I run into in the street. It's family, friends. Everybody wants to know what the team name is. That's sort of the most interesting thing to me.
All right. I love the story about the 99-year-old woman who is writing from a retirement home and sends us a deal that says, I was an athlete at Oklahoma A&M College, establishing her credentials as an athlete and somebody who knows. She wants them to be named the Zippers. Zingers. I'm not Zippers, sorry. Zingers, yeah. I want them to be named the Zingers. And, that just shows me how deep and wide the interest is in this. I got one more question about nicknames, though, first. Do you think they already know what it is?
I think they have, yes. Yes. For the most part, I think they know what it is. I think they're sort of getting down to the final legalities of the name with licensing and distribution, that sort of thing. Making sure they can trademark it, copyright it, anything they have to do legally. And then I think, they want to make sure all of that's squared away before they bring it out and announce it. It might, there's a possibility that they might still be on, 2 or 3 names. And I think that's a strong possibility. But for the most part, I think they have that front runner that's sort of out there. I'm going to say this last thing about team names. I heard something on the radio this morning. I don't know what the caller's name was, but give him credit, whoever you are. Oklahoma City Pride.
The Pride?
Think about it before you, don't knock it until you think about it. Oklahoma City Pride.
Oh,
how much more positive can you be than Oklahoma City Pride?
Well, you can't. Hope and there's all kinds of positive words, but does it make a good nickname? Just because it's positive doesn't mean...
Pack of Lions, fierce Lions, a pack, pride, a team, a strong team, unity. It works. It works on so many different levels.
This
and I just thought of this 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
so
I can tell you put a lot of thought into it.
But it works.
This reminds me of one of those Coke Zero commercials where the guy says, pretend you're real estate, and they want to challenge Coke. And he says, hey, let's put those lawyer pants and walk around with that one a little bit. Let's put these marketing pants on and let them do it. Let them worry about the marketing, what it's going to be when we come to Pride.
Pride hits on so many things that Vince Orzer and so many others told me yesterday. It's short, it's sweet, it's easy to spell.
No chance.
Well, I'm not saying it does, but it makes sense.
I'm going to put one out there. I love the Oklahoma City Slickers. I just think it's a great idea, and it can go both ways. It can be Oklahoma City Slickers, or it could be the Oklahoma City Slickers. Either way, I like it.
It's great stuff just talking about
this. We need a team name soon. By the way, if these folks manage to keep it a secret all the way up to the announcement, 2 things. One is, me and you need to have a serious discussion about the role of reporting.
That doesn't sound good.
No, or they need to go to work for the State Department. Okay, let's go from the team name to the team game. Last week, Oklahoma City met Sam Presti. Not the first time you've met him, but the first time many people in the media met him. Impressions.
You know, he's 31, maybe 32 now. I think he's 32 now. Youngest GM in the league. I think, he's a smart guy. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's not in this position by accident. I think Oklahoma City fans I actually had dinner and ran into some old Hornets fans who sat right behind me at the press table 2 seasons when the Hornets were here. And they were so impressed. They loved Jeff Bauer, the Hornets GM. They thought he was basically a genius for everything that he did with that roster. I think they're going to be equally impressed with Sam Presti and the moves that he makes to shape and mold this team into a winner. So, the biggest thing that stood out to me, last week, or was that last week he gave his, that was
Thursday.
A week ago Thursday. He gave that initial press conference, was that he embraced this city. That was the biggest thing. He didn't come from Seattle. He's been to San Antonio. He's an East Coast guy, sort of this big market kind of guy. But he didn't big league us in any way. He embraced the city. He showed that he was eager to get out there and build and grow with this city, and that stood out to me. So, I think we're all going to be impressed by Sam Presti.
Short on the specifics. We were trying to pin him down about what the team needs, what kind of moves he might make. My impressions of these kind of guys is this: the people who talk a lot don't do a lot, and the people who don't talk a lot do a lot.
Yeah.
It seems to me that they might not. What kind of moves are left for them to make between now and the start of the season?
I think you're going to see them probably pick up one free agent, a small name, nothing big. I mean, the name C.J. Miles was out there, a shooting guard out of high school. He plays for the Jazz now. Not much of a known in the NBA. They might go after a guy like that just to add some perimeter shooting, some help on the wings. Maybe some defense.
There was a report last week that Tony Allen, former Oklahoma State player, was either going to work out with the team or had worked out with the team. What have you been able to find out about that?
The Sonics had interest. They were doing as much as calling Oklahoma State assistants. They had Tony Allen in. They talked to him, his representatives. At this point, I don't think they're going to bring Tony Allen in.
Why? Price?
I think it's a little bit of price. I think it's a little bit of injury history. Now, I know you love him. He's an athletic guy. I think, and this is my personal opinion, nobody with the team told me this, most of his game, when you watch him, is based on athleticism. I mean, Tony Allen has always been a tremendously athletic guy, more so than most in the NBA. So, when you have knee injuries, that sort of derails what most of your game is built on. So, I just think that injury history probably scared the team away, whatever they're going to be called.
Okay, so there's a chance for them to make some free agent moves. But the big thing that comes out of this is that the Sonics are building for the future, or the Oklahoma City team to be not the Sonics, as Barry Tramos called them. They're building for the future, and everybody's talking about cap flexibility. I started thinking about this. For what? Are they going to go out and try to get LeBron James? No. When is Kevin Durant? A lot of folks in Seattle were throwing stones at Oklahoma City saying, well, you might get the team, but there's no way Kevin Durant will ever stay in Oklahoma City. You wrote about this over the weekend, and basically you said free agents go where the money is. Is that why they're trying to keep a lot of cap room for when it's Kevin Durant's turn to say, pay me?
It's a big part of the reason. I mean, it's a big reason why they want to. I mean, they also need to sign Jeff Green. They also going to have to sign Russell Westbrook. That's not coming up
down
for
the
a
road.
All of those are down the road.
But they're
going to have cap room for next season in 2009, 2010. Or 2009, 2010. They're sort of at their limit. They have some room this coming season and this summer. But next summer they're going to have all kinds of room. It could be $30 million that they'd have next summer. But Durant's not going to get his extension until he plays 3 years in the NBA. Then you negotiate it. It kicks in his fifth year. You have 2 guaranteed years in the NBA, 2 option years. After that 4th year, his contract extension will kick in his 5th season. So
they want money, but they don't want to have a bunch of bad contracts that carry for 3-4 years.
Exactly. So that's why you're not going to go out and see them sign sort of like a Josh Smith, who they can't afford this year, but say a Josh Smith type is on the free agent market next year. They don't want his salary extending down the line. I mean, they want to be able to have that flexibility to take care of Jeff Green, take care of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and then add sort of complementary players.
They like that three, don't they?
Yeah, and I think this season is going to really show how much they like that three. I mean, I think Jeff Green can make great strides this year. I think Russell Westbrook can come in and really sell himself on being the 4th overall pick and make give himself just sort of justify his selection being that high. So we'll see this year. I think that is their core. Sam Presti sort of he didn't deny it, but he said, "Look, everybody else is saying that this is our core, but I never said that."
Core.
He had not said it. I mean, so he's not saying any other players. So it's those 3 guys, I think.
It's the core. Hey, listen, that's all for the NBA and OKC podcast. We'll see you next week.